You guys got to help me remind not to say anything odd because Megan's recording all of this, so it'll be good. Hey, how's everybody doing? Sorry, I'm just a few seconds late here. I wanted to go out and give Mr. Felton over in Training Division. He just did his 40-year service award. So I know some of you have already surpassed that, but I just wanted, that was a pretty significant thing. I wanted to make sure I was there for that, and I just ran through gate 3 and got it over here. Hey, our first one together. So for those of you that I haven't met yet, I apologize. I'm still making my way around. Been here about 30. What we at, Tom? Like 35 days, 39 days, somewhere there. So not quite 2 months. So June 20th, whatever that is. This is a big place. So a huge organization, lots of people, and so I'm making my way around there, and I eventually will get down to shake hands with you and have some conversations. But it might take a little bit. So our first time together. So we sat back about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Dr. Elliot Roberts. So I sat down and said, hey, this supervisory engagement program, how do you want to run that? And I know as Colonel Walter left, I believe that you did a kind of a brainstorming session on how this should evolve, some topics that should be discussed, what you're interested in, how you want to kind of move that forward. I've gotten all of those numbers. We're going to sit down and kind of start, as I look at it, as a campaign plan. So we're going to push that out as soon as she gets back, so it'll probably be next week. But this first one, since I am woefully late in getting around to talk to people, I kind of wanted to introduce myself a little bit. Tell you a little bit about where I come from, how I view leadership, how I view positions, how I view not necessarily command philosophy. I don't know if that is applicable per se, but I wanted to kind of give you where I come from, and then the way ahead. Okay, so what my thoughts are on that piece. And then I do things a little bit different, as you know, we asked Megan to go ahead and record these because I know that your time is valuable. And for those that cannot join us physically here, well, you can access this on the link that we provide whenever you're available. So whether that be at home on an iPad or at work, you got time, click on it, watch it for a few minutes, and then move on. And that's the way I plan to send out a future messages as well. So for those that are familiar with, that you've actually, I see the familiar faces, that have gone to the brown bag lunches with me, so I've cut those down to like once a month. But I'm also going to supplement topics for monthly, kind of like a Martin Minute. And so myself or Sergeant Major will give 2 or 3 topics, talk about that, how it affects the garrison, questions that you send in, questions that I get asked while I'm moving around the battlefield. I'll cover those topics, and it'll be about a 3-minute video, and we'll post those monthly. I'll also send out a Stewart 6 Sends. It covers pretty much the same thing, but it gives a sit rep of the garrison as well. So directors give me sit reps every 2 weeks. I'll go through those. I think all of those are applicable, so you see the big picture of what's going on here on post, where we're headed, and any friction points that have arisen along the way. So that's kind of the way ahead, kind of the introduction, kind of the icebreaker of kicking this thing off. Any questions right off the bat? All right, quiet group. Okay, don't fall asleep. All right, hey, I'm not sure if you can see this, but I left this up here for a reason. So you're going to see a theme through here. Cav background, cavalry organization. I am an armor officer. There's a rumor out there, it is true, I've never been on a tank. And so 22 years, I left officer basic course as a, no kidding, tanker. That was the last time I pulled triggers on a tank. I was assigned as a scout platoon leader and have been with reconnaissance and cav organizations my whole career. And you could say my whole life because I'm a military brat as well. My father was a scout pilot, and so I've grown up in red and white organizations. That has shaped the way that I approach the world. It's shaped the way I think, it's shaped the way I speak. It's shaped how I move around. And I'll tell you what that really means here in a just a few. But you're going to see that thing because that's who I am. If you go in my office, it's red and white. My house has red and white stuff all over. This is the first time I took command in a ceremony and did not wear a Stetson. So I don't usually wear berets, and in fact I had to go buy a brand new one because I didn't know where mine was. But, hey, so just to cover a few things, background, what my intent is, and expectations way ahead. So a little bit about me. So military brat, I've grown up in the Army. My dad was actually a fireman. He came back from Vietnam and was a fireman in the city of Houston for a long time. So my godfathers and my uncles are just retired from the fire department down here in Houston. That's why I bother Chief and the boys over there all the time. But I grew up a little bit in the firehouse, spent some time over there, and then my dad decided to go back to college and become a commissioned officer. So he did that when I was a little bit older, went to aviation branch, and then I grew up in flight hangars, literally in flight hangars. Staff duty would help me build my Pinewood Derby cars as I went to Cub Scouts, and I'd hang out in the test pilots and talk to the aircraft, talk to the towers as they booted up the aircraft with APUs, and I could talk. Those were different times, right? So 70s and 80s. But I am family oriented, and I believe the Army is a family oriented profession. It's not just a 9-to-5 job. It is focused on the family, and that's kind of how I approach my views. It's not just as the receiver of these services that we now provide as a garrison team, but now being on the garrison team, are we doing right for our families, and are we including those other quiet people, the behind-the-scenes portions, and not just the service member that's in uniform, because that's where I kind of come from. My wife Michelle, so we've been married for, I think it's right 21 years now. I got 2 boys. They're both over at Bradwell. Connor's 16, Patrick's 14, so hopefully Connor will graduate and go off to college, and then Patrick will continue here. My background, as you can see, it's mostly CAV stuff. Spent a lot of time in tactical organizations, NTC, and I've been through every CAV organization that the Army has evolved, from the actual Armored CAV Regiment through reconnaissance troops, and much now in my career I'm seeing units that don't exist anymore because the Army said, hey, you're too old, and we're evolving, and so those organizations go away. I've been deployed a few times, Bosnia, Saudi. I have not gone to Afghanistan. Just never hit the timing, I guess. I did go to LSU, so I am a huge LSU fan. For those of you that gone to the Georgia institution's education, I heard that they're going to be accredited this year, so that's a good thing. So I mean that's a huge thing for you guys. I know that you're looking forward to that, and then I know there's some Alabama fans. Yeah, it's okay. There's a dentist somewhere here in Georgia. I can take care of you guys as well. So hey, there's help for all of us, right? But hey, so football season is coming up real soon. You'll see me. You'll see me wearing my purple and gold when I can. But I love college football. I did have the chance to attend Navy War College and Army War College. Deputy will tell you that if you show up and attend class and do well, they'll give you a degree. So most of my time was spent fishing and learning how to sail at Navy. And at Army War College, I went to a lot of car shows in Pennsylvania and hung out up there. But yeah, so I got to do those things. How I operate. So I'm a hands-on visual learner. If you send me emails, I honestly God, I try to read it. But I get much better interaction and much better understanding having a face-to-face discussion. And more importantly, if I could ever get out of my office and get away from my schedule and spend time one-on-one talking about friction points, understanding what you do and how I can help, that's where I see myself as being most effective. Because of CAV background, I don't beat around the bush, and so if you give me like read-aheads, I will do my homework. but you don't need to read the slides to me because I'm usually 2 or 3 slides ahead of you in the discussion, and I'll tell you what I'm interested in and what I want to talk about, and I might have 3 or 4 questions up front. And sometimes that saves both of us time because you don't need to give me the 15-slide brief or the whole background of it. I'll just ask you, hey, these are things I understand. What are the issues with this? Did I miss anything? Okay, let's go and start moving out. With that, I'm pretty straightforward. If I think this is not a good idea, I'll tell you, hey, this is bad. I'll tell you, but I don't mean that personally, okay? It's a business. We're here, we're all professionals, and I won't say I don't have empathy, I do, but I believe that we're all adults and we can have blunt conversations, okay, with obviously respect for one another. But I don't, if I'm displeased with something or you're displeased, I expect the same thing in return. Please let me know. And that's kind of how I operate about it, okay? All right, any questions on this? I'm going to transition to something a little bit quicker. Next slide. And so, go to the next one.
You have the clicker.
I do. Yes, sir, Mr. Logan. Go to the next slide.
Way to be blunt.
Thanks, Megan. Maybe it doesn't work. It is working. Okay. How many of you have heard of the starfish story? 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. For those of you that have heard it, you've probably heard this version. There's several different versions. Starfish story is kind of the way I look at. There's 2 parts to this. So it's the way I look at life, my command philosophy wrapped up in one, my leadership philosophy, and I think it holds true, and I haven't ran across where it doesn't apply necessarily. So starfish story begins with a grandfather and a young boy. They're walking along the beach early one morning. The tide had just gone out, and there's all this seaweed. Starfish are up there, a couple jellyfish, and the young boy starts picking up the starfish, and he looks at one and throws it back in the water. The grandfather doesn't say anything, and they walk along a little bit further, and he picks up another, starts throwing it back in the water. And then he runs ahead of the grandfather, and he starts grabbing as many starfish as he can find and throwing them back in the water. And he's hurrying now. He's got a sense of purpose. And he's throwing these starfish back in, and the grandfather says, "Hey, Johnny, where are you going?" And he said, "Grandpa, I'm trying to save all the starfish." And he goes, "Look, son, look down the beach. There's miles and miles of starfish. You see all the seaweed. You're not going to save them all. Why don't you just come back here? We'll finish our walk. We'll go back home and grab some breakfast." And Johnny, he's young. He says, "Okay, well, that sounds good, Grandpa, because I'm really hungry. I like bacon, like me." And he says, "Hey, I'll just start walking along with Grandpa." And he starts thinking. And he says, "Well, I feel bad now because there's all these starfish and I'm not doing anything about it. Let me just grab this one." And he throws it back. And then he starts it again. And the grandfather says, "Johnny, quit worrying about the starfish. We're going to go back home now." And he goes, "Well, why? Why not just try to throw them in, Grandpa?" And he goes, "Well, you're not going to save them all. It's absurd to think that you're going to help all of these starfish that are out there." And Johnny thinks for a minute, and they start walking back home, and he picks up one more, and he says, "Boom, I throw it back." And he goes, "Well, Grandpa, I made a difference to that one." And Grandpa thinks for a minute and says, "You're right." He picks up one and starts throwing it back, and so they walk back home together. Now they're putting those starfish back in the water. Point of the story. So there's several end states, several points that some people come up with. Is one, children. Children are not influenced by past experiences, and their motives are always pure, and they want to save the world, and they think out of the box. And so we as experienced adults should grasp those opportunities, listen to others, despite it sounding odd or hopeless or out of the box, and grasp onto those opportunities and potentially encourage that, right? I hold that true. But the other piece that I hold true is, no, you can't save everybody. But you can make a difference to one. And that's why I say be someone's hero. And so I believe whether you look for a higher power, you believe in serendipity, chance, whatever your thoughts may be personally, opportunities arise. You can be someone's hero, or you can be someone's failure and potentially someone's enemy, or you can let someone down. And that could be anything from opening the door to somebody to taking an extra minute and explaining to them how to fill out a 4187, how to fill out the plethora of services that you provide all the way around. Taking a moment and ensuring that their safety is preserved, that they understand what's going on in their life. Taking a minute just to listen. And you can apply that how you see fit necessarily in your areas of expertise, because we span the whole piece. But I believe that every day you're provided an opportunity to either be someone's hero or be an asshole. And so it's your choice. Hopefully you choose at least one to be someone's hero. But the big point in that is once you choose that, it's contagious. It's contagious, and if you make a difference, if you look across the workforce of just a simple garrison, we'll just take 1,200 for a number. That's 1,200 heroes, man. That's a pretty powerful statement. And even if you did it in your directorate or did it in your team, that's a pretty powerful impact, especially when you talk like an installation like this. And I'm not saying you don't do it. I just say maintain it, and that's how I do life. Okay? Next story that I throw out. So how many of you have heard the final presentation, the last, I think it's called the last story, the last speech, I think it was. So, yep. So real quick, background, professor, extremely well-liked professor, very successful. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so he was giving one final presentation. He wrote a book, it's about 80 pages or something, very, very small. And so he's giving one final presentation, and the room was crowded. I mean, there was standing room only. They couldn't get in, no parking spots, and so they videoed it, and he gave his final presentation. And he had about 10 lessons that he wanted to put out. And one of the things I think is applicable here is he talks a story about his family used to go to Disney World, right down the street. They'd save up money and send all these people to send all these kids that were less fortunate to Disney World. And I believe him and his siblings, him and his sisters, they bought a Minnie Mouse and salt and pepper shaker, right? And they come out of the gift store and they're super excited. They're like, hey, we're going to give this to mom and dad. It's going to be awesome. We're going to say thank you for bringing us to Disney World. And they walk out stores and they drop it. They drop it and it shatters. They walk back in and they go, hey, you know, this was all our money. We're kids. We don't have any money to buy mom and dad a gift. Can you do something about it? And Disney World said, well, yeah, of course. Here's a brand new set. And they give it back to him. Fast forward years later, he's the manager in charge of Main Street shops at Disney World, for those of you that haven't been there. And the first thing he walks in and says, hey, what is our policy on returns? What's our policy on broken items? What's our policy on these things? And they said, well, of course, if you know, drop it, you got to come back in and give us a receipt. If it was defective, we'll return it, but if it was your fault, well, c'est la vie, right? And he's like, well, so where's the forgiveness? Where's the policy that accepts mistakes? And if we don't have that, well, then we're probably not helping anybody out. We're probably not allowing people to learn. We're probably not allowing mistakes. We're not setting an environment for a successful team. And so let's change that immediately. And so I ask you, do our policies, do the way we manage, do the way we lead, allow for learning, growth, and acceptance of mistakes? And then not only do we support one another to ensure that we have learning, we have growth, and we have continued building that teamwork, but do we have an opportunity to kind of hot wash that, find our mistakes, and then have the one-on-one adult conversation on how we get better about it? And if our policies don't have that, then we need to change it. If our leadership approaches don't allow that, then we need to change it. So I'll transition here to the final pieces, but those are my two philosophies. That's how I approach command. That's how I approach life, and that's how I kind of view things through my lenses. Okay. So starfish and Mickey Mouse salt and pepper chicken. Take it like that. But that's how I view it, okay? Next slide. So,
You have the clicker.
I'll quit saying, why don't I just do this? Mark, here we go. So, that way when I say, next slide, let's work as a team, Mark, come on. Hey, this is extremely hard to read now that I've seen this in this environment. And so what I'll do is I'm going to post this, okay? Bottom line, I have purpose, key task, and end state. Obviously, I'm an Army officer. I went to those awesome universities, Navy War College, Army War College. That's how I approach intent, right? Commander's intent. So purpose, key task, and end state. Hey, what does it really mean? You can see there, be someone's hero, but I believe that you're able to do that with three things. Leadership, teamwork, and professionalism. So I believe that as leaders, as supervisors, you're responsible, man. Step up. Step up, grab hold, and say, I'm in charge, right? And I'm going to make the decision, and I'm responsible for what my team fails to do, does or fails to do. But be a leader in that aspect. The second piece is teamwork. Adversarial relationships, competitiveness, it degrades. Let me back that up. Competitiveness is good, in a way. But when it gets to the point where we're undercutting teams, where we're undercutting other members, I mean, you guys have been there, right? It degrades trust, and that's where it's no longer effective. But it says compete against the standard, not against each other. Be willing to take a hit to help someone else. I think it was President Reagan that said, "Hey, if you're not worried about who gets the accolades, your horizon's never limited." Right? Pretty good piece of advice. So if you're not worried about who gets his names in the paper, who gets the picture put on the front line or whatever, hey man, build up your team because it'll come back. Okay? And then professionalism. Most of you in this room, just like me, are in a fishbowl every day. We take pictures of Mark just for fun, but people want to know what you're doing, right? And so when you walk into the room in a supervisor position, they're watching how you walk, they're watching what you do, they're recording what you say. We're professional, and we have to maintain that standard because people look at you as a model, and whether we just got to maintain that standard both morally and ethically. End state. So the end state is Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield is the premier power projection platform for the Eastern Seaboard of the United States Army. You've heard that call, you've heard that saying before, I assume. How many of y'all have heard that? Okay, good. Stop me. That's the CG's intent, right? So that was the guidance he gave me. We maintain this status, premier power projection platform for the United States Army and the Eastern Seaboard. All the while taking care of soldiers and family members and ensuring that this is an awesome place to live, it's an awesome place to work, and people have a desire to come and be part of this team. So that's kind of my end state, that's my goal to get to, that's what I'm working for, okay? All right, expectations. So you'll see down here it says, okay, cavalry operations are hard. It's absolutely necessary because it happens quickly, it's complex, it's operations. Cavalry operations are freaking easy compared to garrison operations. I'll tell you that right now. There is nothing that compares to garrison operations. This is, I'm not tooting my horn about this one, this is by far, I feel good about, I'm no longer the smartest guy in the room, and that was evident on day one. And I'm okay with that. And so, what I mean by that is, as I was a senior trainer out at NTC, right? And so, if you want to talk about CAV, reconnaissance, surveillance operations for the United States Army, I assisted in writing doctrine. I coached squadron brigade commanders on their use of tactics for those pieces. I got all kinds of questions. Come here, people ask me, and I go, hey, what do you guys think? Hey, what's the answer? Because there is no way in hell I'll know, right? And I feel damn good about that. Because you guys are the subject matter experts. Some of you have been doing this for 40 plus years, 30 plus years. I was blown away with how many master's degrees, doctorate degrees, certifications, you name it. We have an amazing, talented, and experienced workforce here. And I rely on you every day to maintain the status of the premier power projection platform. Because there's no way in hell that I can do it. I look for opportunities to help you. I look for opportunities to show your success and showcase you, not only as individuals, but as teams as well. And that's how I see my goal. And then to set the environment for that, right? With resources, set the environment with adjacent, and then obviously MCOM and MBA. That's my job. So what do I expect for you? One, maintain the professionalism. Continue to seek out opportunities for continuing your education, continuing your certification, continuing to maintain relevancy. So some of the discussions I've had in small groups, the world's changed. And so for those of you that came in federal service in 1980, the Army family is different. The soldier is different. His and her needs are different. The way that they perceive information, the way that they accept information is different. The way that we interact in this building, the way that we conduct education is different. When you go over to the Soldier Service Center, the way that they in-process is totally different from 1980. And if you haven't changed, and if you're not looking beyond that horizon, you will become no longer relevant. You'll become one of those individuals that sit in the back of the cubicle and continue to process the same paperwork until they say, well, we no longer need that paperwork. We'll see you later. It's not what we want. We want to say, hey, where's the horizon at? What can I do to shape it? Here's my ideas. Here's what I bring to the fight. So I'd ask you to extend those horizons. Look for those opportunities. Leverage technology. One of the things that we talked about is, how do I communicate with the rest of the force? Because I have DES, I have CDC workers, I have different shift workers that I can't reach at an 8:30 change for a supervisory engagement time, right? They're just not going to be here. And I can continue to do this for like four or five sessions till I get everybody. That's a technique, but why don't we just leverage technology, right? We changed the app on the Fort Stewart app to now include work orders, for those of you that aren't familiar with that. So soldiers' families that want to put in work orders to our DPW, they don't have to call someone. They can put it anytime they want on their phone. They drop down menu and execute it. Are we looking for opportunities on how we in-process families, how we help them with problems, how we counsel by leveraging technology like that? I already know the answer, we are, but we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to invest in those pieces. Last expectation, and this will be a dialogue as well, but it's have fun. Hey, I don't take and everybody, right? So all leaders get up here and they go, hey, have fun. You're like, yeah, well, you don't do this for 4 years. But hey, look, I'll be honest. Fun's contagious. But so is sadness, right? So if you're having a bad day, guess what? Everybody's having a bad day, man. If you come in bitching and moaning about how your day is, and hey, guess what? Everyone has one of those. I do too. But it's contagious on both ways. And you bitch and moaning for 20 years, and guess what? No one wants you around. And it's probably time for you to leave. That's life, right? Remember I told you to talk blunt? So if you're having a bad day, you don't like your job, hey, tell me about it and I'll let you go. We'll figure out how we can do some severance pays. Okay? Because I want guys that have fun on the team. Alright? If you're not having fun, you don't like your job, Burger King hires. So say that with me. Okay? I want you to be part of the team and I want you to have fun. That's kind of what it's about. And then take care of one another. Okay, we've had some of our teammates here get just in the 30 days that I've had, we've had some serious health issues, and so You know, some of our teammates went in the hospital for a while. They've had accidents. Stuff happens because we have a huge organization. But we also have an aging workforce, okay? So look out for one another, talk to one another, and make sure we're taking care of one another. That's both mental and physical. We don't want to lose you for an accident that could have been prevented by any means. So please, I'd ask you to take care of that, okay? All right, so I've talked a lot. Hopefully I've made some sense. Hopefully I've communicated a couple things. Starfish, salt and pepper shakers, right? Those are our takeaways. And then how do we do that? Leadership, teamwork, and professionalism with an in-state premier Army power projection platform on the Eastern Seaboard. If you walk out with anything else, that's what I'd ask you to remember. If you want to watch this again, you can. Megan's gonna post this here shortly. Okay, so here's what I'll do. So we're gonna keep rolling on this because I'm sure people ask questions. But kind of open it up. I think this next one is the way ahead, right? For questions. So how I see this moving forward is this will be the last time that I really speak this much. I'm going to look for opportunities, and we kind of talking around the front house of the team. I see these next engagements. We can do some technical aspects in which I've focused on like civilian workforce pieces, whether that is how we process awards, how we process evaluations, how we execute those, or counseling. And then the other aspects that I wanted to focus on is supervisory roles, right? So leadership styles, conflict resolutions on those pieces. And you've heard these before, but I approach it from a little different perspective. So the way that we'll do those classes is I will do some assigned reading for you. I'm not going to do cold calls, you know, hey, you read this. But I'm going to give you a supplemental piece, maybe a 1 to 2 page article. Maybe it's a story about salt and pepper shakers or starfish. But that'll supplement the instruction that when we come in here, we'll talk about it for about 45 minutes, and then maybe open up some dialogue with some questions about it, okay? And then the other half of those engagements will be the technical aspect, or how I see that, really focused on the portions I talked about. So, you know, the filling out exact paperwork, or changes that might be in guidance, or regulations, procedures, those kind of things. To educate you and the rest of the workforce on those pieces. All right? Does that make sense? Okay, well, so I don't think anyone's fallen asleep. That's a good thing, so I consider that a win. But what are your questions of me? What are your questions of, how are we doing on time? About 20 minutes. Okay, so how are we doing, what are your questions? Come on, man, I'm not that good. Hey, one of the things they asked me is like, when I came in, hey, Colonel Logan, have you ever worked with civilians before? And so I didn't know how to take that question. It's kind of like, hey, have you ever trained tigers? I'm like, what? Why would they be different, right? Oh yeah, you are different, man. It's just like training tigers. No, it's all people, right? It's just people. Civilians are people too. That's kind of my problem. And no, I mean we have an experienced workforce. I think it was 10% of Command Sergeant Major and officers. Obviously, even greater than that are NCO backgrounds. And then this ain't your first rodeo, right? So you've been working with green suiters for a while. So yeah, someone asked me that the other day. Have you ever worked with civilians? Different. What other questions? I can ask them myself.
I got a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I take it, email is not your favorite type of communication,
Yeah.
but it's better than no communication at all, right?
Yeah.
So if we can't get to see you, sending an email is okay?
Oh, hell yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so the other piece, so I told guys I don't like PowerPoint. I don't, man. But PowerPoint's needed sometimes, right? It's the only way you can convey, you can communicate. So, yes, by all means, please send me the PowerPoints. The emails, I average about 60, some of you probably get more than that, right? I average about 60 new emails a day. So the way I filter it, obviously CGs and Ms. McCullough goes first, obviously directors, and then I go down from there. I usually don't get to it till about 1700.
So if we got a special program we want you to know about, we should just contact Megan and get a spot on your calendar?
So if you want to tell me about a project that, hey, you need my guidance, you need my decision made, or you need some resources that I can help get, the best way to do it is send me a
Calendar?
one-page, well, just like a one-page calendar read ahead. Say, hey, give me like 3 or 4 bullets. Hey, here's why this is important. Here's why if you don't pay attention to it, it's going to suck, or something like that. And then kind of give me a second or two to understand that, and then yeah, get on my calendar. Just come get on the calendar. Does that help? What else, man? There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yes, sir. So I'm glad we're having a fun day today. Can you break down the acronym LSU for me, and then I'll get to my second question?
I'm sorry, the elementary school is next door. Yes, sir. I like your bow tie.
Cool, sir.
See, I follow up with a praise, but go ahead. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just trying to get the location of it, sir. The LSU, the university.
What? Are you serious? Are you serious?
He's messing with your brain.
Louisiana, sir.
Louisiana State University,
Cool, sir. Thank
located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Cool, sir.
That's
You
right.
made my day.
What else? Come on, guys. I mean, I got to bug out for a municipal
Joint management.
What is that? A joint management board? So we're talking about airports. I fly out of them and fly into them. That's right. So we'll see what comes of that. But hey, what else is out there? What are you guys concerned about? Yes, sir.
Sir, in light of Mr. Beam's bringing up the LSU, what is the standing in the SEC this year?
We're going to go down this. So preseason has not come out yet, right? Officially by ESPN. So it has not come out yet, but I'm expecting it's going to be probably 8.
Right, yes, sir. Thank you
But
so
you,
much.
because you don't want to come out peaking, right?
Well, sir, you got to get in where you fit in, and I just...
Yeah. So, like I said, next time we engage, we'll talk about discipline actions.
Hey, sir, I'm EEO, so...
Hey, yes, ma'am.
I know nothing about football, so my question is...
Neither do they. But yeah.
In terms of you guys coming under AMC and then discussion at the higher level in terms of COL, MIG,
Right.
AFSBN, maybe
Yeah.
changing the relationship, what has been the discussion recently?
So, yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So the AMC discussion, right? So how much has changed since we changed patches? So this, I never wore the other patch. The day I took command, Colonel Walter had already changed over. You know, you guys are tracking all that piece. So we took off this patch. We now fall under AMC, Army Materiel Command. Still fall under MCOM. So so nothing's changed on that piece. But Paul, what's changed for you guys?
A lot of no answers.
No answers. There you go. That has not changed.
That's not
So here's what we know. There are possibilities and there are rumors. So I can confirm rumors. That's what I can confirm right now. The rumors that are still out there is the LRC and CPAC coming back under Garrison control. That's a rumor, okay? I believe, so we have, I have two conferences to go to. One is in 2 weeks. It's just MCOM readiness at Fort Bryan, which is actually, I think we're going to focus on how to save some MWR operations. Fort Riley did some things with their golf courses. We're going to focus, that's kind of the topic of that conversation. The next one is the Worldwide Garrison Commanders Course, or Garrison Commanders Conference in November, which is at MCOM headquarters in San Antonio with our 3-star commander, General Becker. That, I believe, is going to unveil the future of what MCOM-AMC relationship is going to be like. I don't believe the MIC is ever going to come under Garrison. I believe LRC will come back underneath. I don't know what that means when we say LRC. I mean, you obviously know. I think it might be the old version of what that may look like. But then that raises the question, what's the true purpose of the AFSPN, right? So we'll see. I believe CPAC will come back. I think that is just a matter of time. So the MEC, and then what was the other one? Oh, NEC. I don't think the NEC will ever come back. So when I talk to MCOM, the NEC will, because of the authorities and regulatory guidance with those pieces, I don't think that'll ever come under MCOM control for that piece. Now, so why did we go to AMC? Did you guys get that brief? So some of you are saying, yeah. Hey, bottom line, we have a 4-star commander at the table now, right? And most of y'all are familiar with AMC garrisons, and then we had MCOM garrisons, and so AMC garrisons being the Letterkenny Army, or Letterkenny depots, all of those places that really didn't have soldiers and families, but they had like bombs and chemicals and innate objects, right? So, but they still had garrison problems. Infrastructure, still had power projection bases, and so they were competing for funds and resources. The Army said, well, if I just streamline it, you have one person asking for money and then they can distribute it as they need, whether it's an AMC garrison or a MCOM garrison. They got one person, one 4-star asking for the big pot. That's going to be a little bit more efficient as opposed to competition between one another. We'll see how that works out. This is the first year, actually, as we go into the bomb cycle, that we actually have a 4-star advocating on our behalf and not a 3-star asking to the Chief of Staff portion. So I don't know if we'll actually see results of this change for a couple of years as we get through the fund cycle, but more to follow. So to answer your question in 30-minute format, I think we're going to have something either right in the close of the FY or right as we go into November. I think we'll have some decisions. One thing that they're real cautious about is changing all of our colors, our flags, our signs, and all of that stuff. You guys know, just like we change out appliances in our houses, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So hey man, when the sign peels off and starts to fall apart, then we might put an AMC sign up there to replace it. But that's millions of dollars just to change colors and pictures on stuff. And we can spend those in other places. Everyone knows where we work. Everyone knows who we are. So I don't see a need into jumping into that right now. Yes, sir.
Sir, third priority for NCCGs that we sent out last night is focused readiness units. Are they referring to the National Guard side, or what are they referring to as the third priority? I Googled it, because I quite frankly didn't know.
So it's listed as focused
readiness.
So as we look at, I think, Tom, the answer right now, and I have not, I saw it as well. So Ms. McCullough, my immediate boss, sent out those priorities last night. That's from the AMC, so General Perna's priorities across AMC. As I start our commander's dialogue with her, I think the answer to that question is both. And so it's, what role do we play in resourcing readiness concerns for either like our APUs or associated units, so 48th, 146, those guys, and our resident Compo 1 units that are currently here at Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield. And so I think the answer to that is both. More particularly because that was written at an AMC level, I think it deals with resourcing and ensuring like CIF is available to support not just deployment of the cab, but deployment of the 146 next spring. that the rail yard is able to send out 2 brigades at a time. That Soldier Service Center is able to conduct demo for National Guard and Reserve units while simultaneously a 20% flip of the 3rd Infantry Division during the summer period. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think that it really focuses on what's our role for the future on that piece.
I just thought it was good too, since his number one focus area is installation readiness. That wasn't on any priority before, so
Yeah.
that was good to see.
Hey, there's a lot of discussion. So as I came on to Garrison Command, here's the way the Army's thinking. So some of the questions are being asked: why have an installation? Why have family housing? Why have you know? Can it be a porous garrison that, for security wise, because what's the real threat? As I look at these guys, right? And so, what's the real threat? Well, we have to protect our power projection capabilities, so our railhead. Just like if you went to a railhead in Atlanta, you know, where they have a train station. Yeah, you can't just walk up. In most cases, if they got hazardous cargo and things, right? There's security aspects. You can't walk onto the airport. So yeah, we'll have security there, but the other portion is, why not be porous? Do we need to have all of the other services on an installation? Why can't our services, much like 70% of our population, be in Hinesville or Richmond Hill? And so you kind of push those things out. So the Army's looking at the way we approach installations and installation readiness, as far as that, as a different mindset, because it's efficiency, it's evolution of what our family's needs are, and how the environment changes, both with technology and threat, as we look forward, particularly to our infrastructure and power projection capabilities. So just something to kind of throw out there as you guys see this. Those of you that are just coming into the workforce and seeing how the Army is changing, that's kind of where we're leaning towards. Well, hey, I will give you some time back. I truly appreciate your time. I hope this was at least semi-beneficial, if not, maybe entertaining. So take that. But hey, thank you guys for everything that you do and continue to do. I look forward to our conversations here in the future. And if you got any questions, comments, concerns, hey, send them to me, man. Just like, you know, we do these things, I was going to say ice complaints. Wrong word. Ice comments. Ice comments. So, hey, send them to me. We'll read them. We'll work it out, okay? Hey, thank you guys again. I appreciate it.